Hey, we've got the CPMC podcast. We are back for round two of the Cal Dynasty League, ready to hit you with our 6 through number 1. Let's get right down to it, Chris. We've got at number 6, we've got what we call the Devastators at number 6. Let's see what we got. We got Patrick Mahomes, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, Ty Hill, Jerry Jeudy, Kyle Pitts, Hunter Renfrow, Christian Kirk, and Danny Dimes. Guys on the bench here that are worth a mention. Nothing so far at all, Chris. Nothing at all. Very, very thin. Pick situation, we have nothing in the first or second round. That's a little bit problematic. Again, Chris, I was ready to hammer you after I got through those first 6 guys saying this legit contender. I can't keep that same energy when I'm looking at Hunter Renfrow, Christian Kirk, and Danny Dimes at the back end.
Exactly. I mean, like I said at the top of the show, in the last show, everybody's kind of got their fatal flaw. For this team, it's their back end, and it's he's missing basically one quality flex player. Having to start Hunter Renfro, he's got no depth, none. And that's going to hurt this team. I mean, he's got so much star power here in Patrick Mahomes, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, potentially Kyle Pitts. Matt, it's the only trade that immediately came to mind with this team, would you just trade Kyle Pitts straight up for Travis Kelce, get the stack, and maybe that's what puts you over the top? You really, the Kelce was on our number 12 team, if I recall, number 12 or 11, I forget which one. I believe it was 12th ranked. Um, Honestly, that should be a deal that works for both of them, just straight up. I think, you know, would you do that? You're not giving up any of your other capital that you could potentially use to fill a hole in the lineup. Is that just a no brainer for both of them?
Um, Value wise, probably, but Chris, I don't think this team is Travis Kelce away from. If that puts me over the top, I sign up and do a jig. I don't think this puts us over the top. I don't even think this puts us in maybe the top 2. I don't think Kyle Pitt's the problem.
No, he's certainly not the problem, and I don't think he puts us over the top. But you get the Mahomes Kelsey stack, and you know how valuable that can be. I mean, there's just insane value in it in having that stack because of how many points they score and you double up on it. I'm thinking my thinking is make that deal, get this stack, and then you're free to kind of use your first, use your second as well to kind of bolster the rest of your squad. It essentially costs you nothing except years. And if I'm this team with Joe Mixon and Josh Jacobs and Tyreek Hill, I just want to go for it. I don't think I need to, lengthen this window anymore. I don't really have a long window. So let me do everything I can to try and strike now while the iron's hot.
Yeah, when you put it that way, Chris, I love that you put it in the way that all it costs you is years, really, with Pitts and Kelsey. And when it comes to winning titles, you sacrifice that. There's no sense in kind of, like you said, landing in this like 4 to 8 range for the rest of your career. And that's a problem. So you've talked me into it, Chris. I investigate that. I think I make that move. I think 12 ranked team has to make that move as well. I wish this team had its 23 first, man. I'd love to be able to move that thing and put in somebody else for Hunter Renfrow, but that's just not a possibility. Listen, I think a lot of people are writing Hunter Renfrow off. I think he might be okay out there in Vegas this year. I'm not writing him off. I think he's going to be fine. But man, a little bit more depth or a first round pick this year, just something to make me sleep a little bit better on this back end.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm with you on Hunter Renfro. I think he might be okay, but I think he looks a whole lot better if he's the first or second guy off the bench for you in a bye week fill-in rather than a guy you need to count on week in, week out. So, I'm okay buying with this team. This is one of the first teams we've looked at that I'm saying, all right, I'm okay buying because I think we've got to, bolster our squad and kind of go for this thing just the way it's currently constructed.
Yeah, we've had a wealth of sellers so far, so should be a decent matchup there. All right, Chris, let's get into our top 5 finally here. At number 5, we've got Mitch Evans, where we've got Dak, we've got Najee Harris, we've got Hubbard sitting at running back currently, Debo, Amari Cooper, George Kittle, Nook Hopkins, T. Higgins. Superflex is going to be Jimmy G when it all comes down to it, or Jordan Love, or Sam Howell. We've got Alvin Kamara sitting on the bench, Alexander Madison. His value seems to be growing by the day. McCole Hardman, Jacoby Myers, Brandon Ayuk, Garrett Wilson, Jawan Johnson, who I love this year, John Mechie on injured reserve. His pick situation is 104 and beyond. I love this team here, Chris. I think this is a tier break where we're starting to take another step forward. Running back, let's hope it can be Alvin Kamara in here for Chuba Hubbard. If not, I've got pause, but this could be our league winner.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I like where this team is. The quarterback situation gives me pause here. Dak Prescott as your one, I think is fine. Jimmy Garoppolo, a lot of smoke about him not being healthy. Jordan Love, who knows what we're going to get. Sam Howell, same thing. Alvin Kamara there at running back. You hope it's him. You hope it's either him or Madison can give you. I love the depth this team has, Matt. I think that's, it's kind of a tale of two teams between this team and the last one with the amount of depth it has. But I've got him down sort of in the title contending tier. Really just due to this quarterback situation. I'm not sure what I'm going to get out of Jimmy Garoppolo. The 104 is huge though, because he's going to get a quarterback there, and I think this team needs that quarterback. It's going to be the last quarterback of the trio most likely, but I think this team needs a potentially stable quarterback there, and I'm going there all the way because this team's got probably the best depth we've seen at the position players. So, it's an easy spot for him in the draft, and I think I really like where this team is headed. I think it's trending upwards, just in general, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if he's playing for a title the way he's set up.
Oh man, I'm going to push back at you, Chris. I think on that quarterback situation, I think between Garoppolo, Love, and Howell. Listen, I don't love any of the three. I think a healthy Jimmy G does it for me, but the fact that he's not healthy is a problem. I 104 and 24 first for 101. Who says no? Remember, we've been looking for a top four pick to trade with that 101. I The only reason you say no is that we think running back should be taken care of. But man, I don't mind pushing Alvin Kamara to the bench, putting Bijan in there. I suddenly love this team a little bit more. I consider now.
This is not the team that says no to that deal for sure. So the other team has to trade Lamar first, then make that deal, or make sure that there's, or do them both in conjunction, and then he takes that deal. I think so. I think it's a fair deal on both ends. This team is not, Mitch Evans is not the team that rejects that deal. He should be making that deal tomorrow.
What about 104 and Najee Harris for Lamar Jackson? I know we don't love coming away with a running back there. I think
I
he's something you've got to sell again.
So the problem there is you're banking on Kamara and Madison, right? So that's a move that Mitch, I think, would, the value's good on it. The value's good on it for both teams, but that leaves Mitch Evans with Chuba as his RB1,
And Alvin Kamara.
and Alvin Kamara, who's facing prison time, as his RB2. And then you've got Alexander Madison as well, who knows what happens with Dalvin Cook. So I think it just leaves him too light. I like the other deal better.
I just like the value there, man. I'd love to put Dak and Lamar together on this team, man. But you're right. I think that leaves you a little bit too thin. And now that leaves you dependent on a second move here to try to go and get a running back. So I think maybe a little bit dicey. Oh man, I just love to put some of these guys together to go get another running back. I don't think drafting a quarterback at 104 is the move here, right? What happens if it's CJ Stroud, who maybe they elect to sit for a year? Suddenly now you've got five quarterbacks on the team. Four of them are maybe playing this year, maybe not. I think three of those is enough.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to trade out of 104 with this team. I think that's, that's sort of the common theme of what we're saying here. If you can get out of that and get yourself some position player help, I think it makes sense. And I think, with this team, the amount of depth he has, I think you want to put, you're on the right track. You want to put two, even potentially three pieces together and get that major stud. And I think he's got the horses to do it. He's got the pieces for sure.
Yeah, this one should be a fun one, this team here, Chris, for the rest of the offseason. I think hopefully, our comments here were thought provoking for him for what he needs to consider doing. But let's get to our number 4 team here, Chris. We've got Tomeo UTG here, Tomeo UTG at number 4. So our league winner last year, Chris. We've got Jared Goff, we've got Singletary, we've got CMC Diggs, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, Drake London, Zach Ertz, and Russell Wilson. Guys on the bench, we've got Mac Jones. We'll see what's going on with him. Zeke Elliott. We'll see what happens with him as well. Valdez Scantling. Nothing else really on the bench. Taxi squad's got nothing. Pick situation is 112, 212, and beyond. Oh, I'm struggling to see how this team won last year, Chris. I mean, maybe he got a miracle day from Christian McCaffrey. It seems okay. I don't love it though.
Yeah, I probably ranked him maybe a spot or two too high. Is kind of at on, third, fourth glance, but I like to defer a little bit to the defending champ, and not put him too low because, listen, Jared Goff scored a ton of points last year. Christian McCaffrey scored a ton of points last year. Diggs scored a ton of points last year. Keenan Allen was really hot at the end of the season. He scored, when he was healthy, he scored a ton of points. I think you've got Drake London trending up. I think you've got Cole Kmet trending up. I think Russell Wilson, God, it's hard for him to be worse than he was. So I think he somehow, I think he's trending up. I don't like the depth on this team. This is maybe the one ranking so far that I'm a little unsure of, and I was probably a little over aggressive on. But if I'm going to be over aggressive on somebody, it's going to be Christian McCaffrey and Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen. I mean, those three guys, make up the bulk of our rosters, and I think they're just really strong players in general. So again, I mean, you want to get on me for this one, say this team should be a couple spots lower. That's fine. I'm okay with it. I just, push comes to shove. I'm going to give the team with Christian McCaffrey, Stephon Diggs, and Keenan Allen a tiebreaker over some other ones. I think he could use a little bit of depth. I think he could use, just some, general upgrades. Probably don't want to be playing Zach Ertz here in that last flex spot. But, I think if he can get those, he's got his picks intact. If he can make a deal, 112 and 212, get himself an upgrade. I think his team could be right there, as a playoff team. I don't think he's a title contender. I really don't, unless it's sort of a repeat from last year where you get, just simply 2 to 3 hot players and run away with the thing. And he certainly has the players capable of doing that, getting hot and running away with the thing. The guys I keep mentioning. So, that's why I've got him here at 4. But I mean, you want to put him lower? I'm all right with that. I won't argue with you.
Yeah, our loyal listeners, Chris, are not shocked one bit here that they're seeing a Steph Diggs and Keenan Allen team overranked by you. No surprise here. You're a sucker for those two guys. I could see it, Chris, right? I could see this team. I think 4 is, in the ballpark, right? Give or take a few spots here. I don't think Zach Ertz is the problem. I think the move here is just getting off of 112. I think drafting whoever's there at 112 is going to be useless for this team. This is a team that is moving towards the end of its shelf life, with those wide receivers that you mentioned, Christian McCaffrey, Zach Ertz, Russ Wilson, guys like that. Let's get off of 112 if we can. Let's add a position player that's in that range. I'd love to see a Mike Evans for 112. Who says no, Chris? I know we haven't seen Evans yet, so it's on one of these top 3 teams. There's a shocker. But something in that range. Do you consider that?
Yeah, we actually did see Evans, and it was on the same team with Kelsey. So he's on one of the bottom teams, and
Oh,
yeah, so there is Tomeo should, the 12th or 11th place team should absolutely accept that offer. I just am curious if Evans can even command 112 anymore. I believe that he should, but honestly, I mean, I don't think we've seen that deal happen, and I'd happily make it all day. And I think honestly, I think that's a good deal for both teams. I really do. Tomeo may want to balk just because the value may not be right, but I think you pay it. I think Evans is maybe, we're splitting hairs, right? I think he's in sort of that 202, 203 range. It's only a couple picks difference. So I think it's a good deal for both teams.
I mean, on the same token, Chris, this draft is showing its true colors by being really an 8-man at best
At best.
draft here. I mean, there's been a number of drafts where we're picking towards the end, and I'm like, I don't even want. I just skip my pick. I don't even want this guy at 11 or 12. So I think by the same token that Evans is slipping a little bit, I think 112 is doing the same. So let's check out our top three here, Chris. At number three, we are looking at Scary Bilbo. Scary Bilbo here at number three, where we've got Trevor Lawrence, David Montgomery, Travis Etienne, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, Mark Andrews, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Saquon Barkley, and Tua. Guys on the bench worth a mention: Khalil Herbert, Tyler Boyd, Darius Slayton, Michael Pittman going to be in the starting lineup, Rondale Moore as well, Kadarius Toney, TJ Hawkinson going to be there. Taxi Squad's got Khalil Shakir, who I think is an interesting piece this year as well. Pick situation is almost non-existent. We got 411 this year, and that is it. Picks are intact going forward. I like this team here, Chris. Obviously looking at this starting lineup as it is, Edwards-Helaire not going to be there. That's, an easy replacement there with Michael Pittman. So it's not an overly deep team here, Chris, but this is as complete of a starting lineup that we've seen.
Yeah, it's a complete starting lineup. You've got some interesting pieces on the bench. I think TJ Hawkinson with this tight end premium finds its way into one of the flex spots. Maybe you move Barkley up to RB2. Put TJ Hawkinson in for Edwards-Helaire, and then maybe put Michael Pittman in at one of the last flex spots. So I think you've got a very, like you said, you've got a very complete starting lineup. You push guys like Montgomery to the bench. And all of a sudden, you've got a decent amount. You've got something else here to go along with Rondale Moore and Kadarius Toney. Two guys, two wide receivers that were kind of hoping break out a little bit this season. So we'll see what happens there. But you're right, not overly deep. But the starting lineup is very quality. It's very young as well. I think this team, you know, I've got him in the top three. I think he's going to be a contender for sure. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's even better next year, honestly, because I don't see a whole lot of guys on this team that are in decline. I think we've got guys just sort of entering their prime here. Jalen Waddle's been great. He's probably only going to get better. Travis Etienne, I think, will get better. Saquon Barkley, I guess, is kind of the only guy, but he's been great when he's been healthy. So I like this team a lot. I think it's strong. I'm just going to kind of stay the course with this team. This is a team I'm not going to look to make any deals. I really am not, um, because I'm young enough and I'm talented enough to be sort of in this top three range. I think for the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, my big question here, Chris, the entire time you've been talking, I've been looking at the lineup is it ever going to be elite enough for it to cut down the nets? And listen, if it ended in second place this past season, obviously the answer is yes. But man, I would just love for one stud position player here. I think we could call Saquon Barkley that, or Jalen Waddle. But I would just love if I could upgrade that Barkley to a, oh my goodness, even a Christian McCaffrey. I know they're going similarly. If I could upgrade that DJ Moore to a Ty Hill, I know he's got Waddle, but man, there's just, if I could see that little incremental change, I think I'd feel that much better about this team. I still think it's good. I wouldn't make any moves either. I mean, can I put together DJ Moore and a first and bring in God, what's a good name that fits that there? You're not getting up to Ty Hill, I don't think, with that. Who could that get me up to?
Matt does. So our number 12 team also has Jonathan Taylor. Is there a deal where we can get I don't think DJ Moore in a first gets you Jonathan Taylor either. But is there something we can do there? Like, does it, is there anything there that makes sense with that? I'd love to get up to Taylor. I think he's, a guy that, he fits the bill, right? He's that sort of potentially game breaking player. I just don't know if the pieces fit. Is it, the number 12 team probably doesn't want ETN in a first, which I think is a reasonably fair deal. Yes, no?
Yeah, it is, but if I'm adding ETN in a first, now I've still got that same issue there at running
Right.
back here. Or, man, you're right. Jonathan Taylor would look really nice in that David Montgomery spot, but I'm struggling to get there because all the deals that you mentioned probably don't do it. I wonder if it's Andrews in this situation here. We could easily throw Hawk into that tight end spot, not lose any sleep about that. Mark Andrews in a first might get you close to Jonathan Taylor right now.
In this tight end premium, maybe. It just kind of depends on the rest of the league values it, but I don't hate it at all. Again, yeah, I'd be looking to do something like that, package a player and a pick and get that upgrade. Because, I think that's the fear with this team is you just maybe have not you're like one stud short of, winning multiple titles.
All right, Chris, time to move on to our top two teams. And at two, we've got Soul Man 20, which gives us power market number one. Let's check out Soul Man here. We've got Jalen Hurts. We've got Brees Hall, Ramondre Stevenson, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Njoku, Damian Pierce, James Conner, and Geno Smith. Guys on the bench, Allen Robinson, always going to mention him. Alan Lazard as well. Alec Pierce, a guy that I do like this year. Dalton Schultz as well out there in Houston. Taxi Squad and IRR Bear. Draft picks. He's got pick 10 next year, so he had a little bit of success last year. I like this team here a lot, Chris. I'd love for it to be a little bit deeper, but this is the most complete starting lineup that we've seen. It's a good mix of elite talent with Hurts and Justin Jefferson, and I'll still throw Devontae Adams into that mix as well. James Conner, Damian Pierce, and Ramondre Stevenson don't keep me warm and fuzzy at night, but I think they get the job done.
Yeah, listen, I mean, this is, it's not we're up to number two here, and we haven't really seen a juggernaut team, which is, from our first, from the opening minutes of the first episode, we knew this was going to happen, right? But at the end of the day, you look at the game-breaking talent on this team, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, potentially Brees Hall if healthy. He showed those glimpses of it last season. And I just like this team enough to put him at number two. I think it's enough to carry him, into the playoffs, into title contention. And then, you've got fairly quality pieces, in my opinion, on the back end in Damian Pierce, who I think is going to get a lot of run. James Conner is going to get a lot of run. I think Geno Smith is good enough here at Superflex, with the rest of the team around him to, really make this team a strong contender. I don't think there's a huge difference between this team and say, number five, but I just like that he's got more game breaking talent than some of the other teams we saw. Jalen Hurts is a guy who showed last season who he can just bury other teams. He can bury other fantasy teams with his game breaking ability. Justin Jefferson, same thing. I mean, these guys are capable of just huge multiple touchdown weeks any given week. And I like that he's running back heavy, so I weighted that a little bit. It's just a strong team overall. Again, like some other teams, wish he had a little bit more depth, but I think he's right there.
Yeah, and this is a guy that also has pick 110 stashed here in his back pocket as well. I would just use that for a little bit of depth. I think this team is built for at least another couple of years. So I'm perfectly fine using 110 to get me a guy that can kind of fit this 2-year build here with this team. 110. Oh man, where's that going to get me here, Chris? It's got to get me into like a seventh-ish rounder this year. Give me a wide receiver at that price.
Does that get you Terry McLaurin?
Yes, 100% should be able to get you Terry McLaurin.
I would say McLaurin or Chris Godwin, maybe, I think are kind of the two names that pop into my head here. Just guys that can, it's just sort of bankable production, right?
Yeah, I think I like Terry McLaurin, and his stock is on the rise as well. I think that's a job or an offer that I throw out there. I'd love to throw him in there instead of Damian Pierce and just kind of see where things happen. I'd love to kind of have him as a bench fill-in rather than a starter that I'm depending on each week. So, obviously depth is the one piece that this team is missing. I'd love to see him add a third quarterback as well if he could do so on the cheap. I don't think Kyle Trask is it. Jameis Winston, unfortunately, is not it, though he should be. So again, it's just got to be depth with this team.
Yeah, I mean that's the name of the game here, I think, because the starting lineup's really good. It's got the elite talent. We just need to figure out ways to make our depth a tiny bit better.
All right, Chris, let's get to our number one team. Power Mark at number one. His draft position is number two, Chris. This means this is our second to last team last year. You can kind of see how that happened. So, heck of a job by this guy with the rebuild. However, he's able to do it to go from that type of performance to now being viewed as the number one team this year. We do have Deshaun Watson, Kenneth Walker, J.K., C.D. Lamb, Jamar Chase, Darren Waller, Rashad White, Chris Godwin, and Kirk Cousins, right? You could see how this team could have been bad last year. Injuries, bad luck. No question about that. We've got Brock Purdy and Tannehill sitting here on the bench. Jerome Ford. We got an offer for Jerome Ford for a third the other day. I did not take it. I am still all in on Jerome Ford. My point is, no one's given you a third for him in the past. Keep your eye on him. I'll say it every single show. Also on the bench, we've got Chase Claypool, Nico Collins, Elijah Moore. Rashid Shaheed's actually getting a ton of love this year out in New Orleans as well. K-Dot and Dulcich Okonkwo at tight end. Guys on taxi squad, we got Jameson Williams, going to be suspended for a few games here at the start. Picks, we've got pick 2, pick 5, pick 9, 2 and 5 as well in the second round. That's got to be what puts you over the top here with this team here, Chris. I like it to begin with, but boy, those picks, that ammo, this team might have a nice little window here at the top, Chris.
Yeah, I love what he's doing. I just absolutely love what he's doing. Um, you know, I, I I wanted to find reasons to move this team down the ranks because it's young, it's unproven, right? Aside from a few select pieces, but I just think this is almost the perfect mix of quality veteran pieces like Kirk Cousins and Chris Godwin and CeeDee Lamb and Deshaun Watson and the ability to stack youth as well and Rashad White, J.K. Dobbins, Kenneth Walker, Jamar Chase, right? And then you have all these picks as well, plus Jamison Williams on the taxi squad. I mean, 259 and then 202 and 205. I mean, it's huge for this team. He's going to be able to grab whether that's, I mean, I don't want to grab a quarterback, but he's got so much flexibility as well. It just makes me excited about this team because he can do so many different things. It's unfortunate he doesn't have the 101 because boy, Bijan Robinson would look great here. But, at 102, it's going to give him a lot of flexibility. 105 is going to give him flexibility as well. I mean, it's so interesting because you could play the board with this team, right? You could at 102, you could very feasibly take Jameer Gibbs at 102. And then at 105, you just take whatever quarterback is left for him, or trade out. And then at 109, you're also adding a quality wide receiver, most likely as well. The same thing with 202. This team just has so much flexibility and can do so many different things, and the upside is it's just immense as constructed already without the picks. So, man, I could talk about this team for another 10 minutes, but suffice to say, I love the way he's headed here. I think he's a strong contender to win the title this year, and he's got all these picks to do whatever the heck he wants.
Chris, the whole show we've been looking for a deal for 101. And I think 102 and 109 gets us there. Add
Oh,
in
it's
a
got
couple
to.
seconds if the guy is playing hardball. And then that's absolutely brilliant. I mean, imagine adding Bijan Robinson to this team. If you can hold on to 105, listen, I'm fine with Tannehill and Purdy being our QB3s in this situation. Then at 105, you get yourself Jameer Gibbs. I mean, that if you can walk out of this draft being the best team and Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, the two best position players by far in this draft. I mean, when does this team start losing? Ever?
Yeah. I mean, I love that. If I could do that 102 and 109, and if I have to throw in 205, I do it. I mean, the team with 101 should, you know, I mean, immediately slam accept on a deal like that, because it's so beneficial for them, and it's so beneficial for Power Mark as well. I mean, it's just such a job well done. I absolutely love this team. I mean, he's in such great shape. His wide receivers are tremendous. And he comes away with running backs like that. Man, the sky's the limit with this team. I think he's got a good. I mean, this is a team we're looking at here. I think that has a good 3 to 5 year window as constructed. With the picks, you factoring in the picks as well. So, man, oh man, it's just a heck of a job by Power Mark.
Yeah, definitely. And, Kenneth Walker, J.K. Dobbins, and Rashad White, we like those guys. I think they're going to be fine values, okay. But those are guys that, certainly come with their share of question marks as well. So I think being able to tighten up running back by adding those two guys would just be ridiculous. So I think you were spot on, Chris, in saying that this team isn't a runaway number one team for this year. But man, the build of this team just has to have you excited for this year and years to come. So really well done by Power Mark. All right, Chris, let me give you the 1 through 12 one last time. Number 1, we've got Power Mark. 2 is Soul Man. 3 is Scary Bilbo. 4 is Tomeo. 5 is Mitch Evans. 6 Devastators. 7 is Big Country. 8 is E. Thomas KC. 9 is Seattle Sioux. 10 is the Metcon. 11 is Nightmare on Al Street. And number 12 is Bardalius. So that's going to do it for us tonight, Chris. This is a fun league, man. You mentioned that it's going to be really, really competitive. I think there's going to be plenty of movement when this show is listened to, and really be quite active if I'm reading the room right here for the next couple of days. Should be a lot of fun. So we appreciate you guys checking in. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we wish you guys all the best of luck going forward.